I want to have an honest conversation about spirituality or a conscious community or spiritual community, just what you end up believing when you say, I'm spiritual, not religious. It's energy work, it's shamanism, tarot cards, numerology, astrology, lots of trauma healing, belief work, oneness, because I did all of it. I explored all of it. And I was in that setting when my channel opened in November of 2016. But now looking back, after my channel led me out of it, really, it all just looks incredibly dark. So I imagine what I would say if I were sitting down with someone who was still very much teetering, like not in it entirely, because I think if someone's very much in conscious community and loves it, they're not really looking for a candid, honest conversation about whether it's dark or not. But I think there are a lot of people that are on the fringes and they don't particularly like the people that they're around. They feel that something's off. They look at their friends, I guess in quotes, friends, who are doing drugs 3-4 times a month, calling them ceremonies, where sexual openness becomes a virtue. Like the more sex you can have, or the more polyamorous you can be, or the more untraditional relationships and sexual relationships you can have, the better person you are. I know that there are people inside of those communities or right on the fringes of those communities that are questioning and teetering. So I imagine what I would say if I were to talk to them. And I don't know entirely where I would start, because I think what I would want to say is, this is dark, right? Like some piece of you already knows that this is incredibly dark, that there's something incredibly off, even without doing the research, even without learning about the UN and Madame Blavatsky and the Theosophical Society. And there's just this feeling deep down that something's wrong, that maybe if there was some dark force here, they just wanted you to get out of the way and they succeeded. That the community doesn't go anywhere, it just exists out of the way and doesn't do a lot. I think I'd want to get right into it, but I don't know that I could. Depends on who I was talking to. Because I'd want to craft my words carefully. And I would want to make sure it actually gets through to them. Because I don't see anyone in the spiritual community that's an actual bad person. It's not entirely true. There's some weird sexual predators. But outside of that weird underbelly of people who prey on people in spiritual community by pretending they're spiritual, the people who are really trying to do it, who really are searching for light, I don't see them as bad people. And I think if given the chance, they would drop everything immediately, because that's how I was. I just wanted to know the truth. And once I started to see through aspects of New Age spirituality and manifestation and manipulating the energy for my own personal gain to fulfill my adolescent desires, once I started to see the parallels between modern spirituality and like old school black magic and Satanism, I wanted out. It was very easy for me. And it was very easy for me then to separate myself from the community, to take a step back. And the further I got, the more I saw, right? It's hard to see what you're in when you're in it. But I'd want to choose my words carefully because I would want it to actually help. And I think I might start by asking, has any of this ever actually worked for you or anyone you know? Like, I get that there are synchronicities, but have you or anyone you know manifested your dream life yet? And if not, why are you still struggling? Why is it so difficult if you know the secret and nobody else around you does outside of spiritual community? If you know the esoteric wisdom, the secrets of the universe, why isn't life easier for you? Because you certainly do more work on yourself than the average person. So your life should be significantly easier than the average person. But there's something wrong. And spirituality will tell you that the thing that's wrong with you is you. Isn't there something wrong with that? Like, how is that light? How is that goodness? How is that truth? The idea that you know a secret, not a lot of people do. But even though you have access to exactly how the universe works, you try your best every single day, monitor all of your thoughts, do deep work, and life is still hard. And it's your fault. The sad conclusion that I came to was that there was no amount of ripping myself apart that would make my life perfect, that would make it all work. And when I looked around at everyone else who was trying the exact same thing, I came to the same conclusion for them. There was no amount of emotional work that was going to make all of their problems go away. And I think that's actually the hardest thing about stepping away from New Age spirituality is you were literally promised the world. You were promised that everything would be perfect for you once you were perfect. But nobody's ever been perfect ever even once. And all of our attempts to be perfect, to create reality, none of them even work. We don't even see evidence of it working. We can make some things up, but deep down, we know it doesn't work. So I get that it's scary to step away, to even question stepping away, because it feels like you're giving up on all of your dreams, on everything that spirituality, other spiritual people, mentors promised you. Like being happy all the time and making more money than you knew what to do with, and having incredible relationships, people who understood you, real community. And to watch the world change because of you for the better. And I think maybe more than any of the personal loss, that's the thing that's even harder to grapple with, isn't this the path to help people? Once I'm healed enough, can't I turn around and heal other people? But if the path you're on, if spirituality doesn't actually go anywhere helpful, then you'll never help anyone. If you just end up more and more and more lost, it doesn't make sense to turn around and help other people to get just as lost. But I think it's important to understand, if you are entertaining leaving spirituality behind, that your experience is still valid. I don't buy the idea that New Age spirituality is one big cult and it's all made up, and you imagined all of your phenomenological experiences. I don't buy that at all. I still have phenomenological experiences. I still see lots of the same synchronicities as any other spiritual person. But I see life very differently now. It's not of my creation. It's something like God, not Christian God, actual God, light, real light. And the path to finding real light seems to start with going into New Age spirituality away from the old light, away from religion. And I think that's the first step for everybody, everywhere, is you leave the traditional worldview of God, man in the sky, looking down angrily. And you go, this is wrong. And I think you're right. But then you go into a pocket that's darker than where you started. And that's tough. It's really tough. Because you thought you were onto something, and you were. But at some point, when you're really honest with yourself and you leave that dark chapter of New Age spirituality, old Babylonian black magic, esoteric secrets behind, you end up in a place where you want to turn back to Christianity to find light again, but it's still wrong. And it's hard to be in that amount of uncertainty about where we are and what we're doing here. And I think it's hard enough that most people will never do it. They'll either turn back to Christianity, stay in Christianity from the very beginning and never even go on the journey, or they'll stay in that weird pocket of spirituality. But I really think, and this is what I found in my own experience, that when you keep going, there is actual light here. there's light inside of the fabric of existence. The idea that the universe, God, is conspiring for us, I think is 100% right. 100% right. And I see it in my experience all the time. But it doesn't happen by fulfilling my adolescent desires. It doesn't. And I think that's why manifestation doesn't work at all. It happens by putting us into some degree of conflict. It happens through our challenges. And in those challenges, we have a decision to do the thing that's most convenient, or do the thing that we want to do, our impulses, our adolescent impulses, or to do something that's often much harder, but that we know to be true down to our core. It's something like our conscience, but it's so much deeper. We can call it intuition, but it's deeper than that even means to most people. That deep, deep inner knowing of rightness. That's still real. When you leave spirituality behind and all of the mainstream practices, and when you stop trying to tear yourself apart to be perfect so that your reality will be perfect, and when you unburden yourself from the responsibility of every single thing you think creating reality, you still have that deep sense of rightness. And you still have visceral proof in your experience that this world is more than physical, that secular belief isn't right. That's still valid. That never goes away. And that feeling that Christianity isn't it either, that doesn't go away. You kind of just go out on your own. And you end up having to trust that sense of inner rightness. And to me, that inner rightness is the thing that I now call God. That deep intuitive knowing of what is true, that conflicts with the way that I think, conflicts with all of my plans, conflicts with the things that I think I might want. That to me is God. And when I orient myself around that, my life gets better. I get more stable. I feel more of myself, more of my expression comes online, and I have opinions again. I'm a person again. And the more space I get from spiritual or conscious community, the more I realize that I was never myself, even close to myself. In that whole chapter of my life, for years, I was never myself. I was censored, I was deeply suppressed, and I was fragmented beyond belief. I didn't even know how I felt anymore. There's no way that that's spiritual evolution, to not even know how I feel. There's no way that was the goal. Because anytime I felt anything negative, I had to reframe it. But at some point I started to think, maybe there's nothing wrong with me. Maybe this is all marketing. So then what? Then I have to double down on who I actually am. I have to double down on a knowing that can't be validated by spiritual teachers outside of me. Suddenly there's no model to follow. There's no 7 steps to spiritual success and how to manifest my dreams. It's just me and my life and all of the hardship that comes with life. All of the emotion that comes with life, positive and negative. I don't know if I would have listened back then to my current self, but I like to think that I would have wanted to know. I would have wanted to know that not all phenomenological experiences are cool. They're not all good. Not all buzzing sensations or leaving your body or visions are light. That there are beings that want nothing more than to keep you from doing what you're here to do. And of course, right? Like there's room for that, even in spiritual ideology, just nobody talks about it. Nobody really even thinks about it. There are beings that are light and dark. There's things out there, outside of our physical experience, that we can have visceral experiences of. And they're not drug experiences. Real, sober experiences. of both light and dark. And figuring out what phenomenological experiences are light and what experiences are dark, isn't that an important thing? Like, shouldn't we be talking more about that? But in spiritual community, there's just this sense of, oh yeah, that's so cool, you left your body. Yeah, you were buzzing. Yeah, that's so great. You blasted off. It's just all cool. It's all just exploration. But there's not a lot of sense making. I like to imagine that people in New Age spirituality who are teetering, people in conscious community who are thinking most days about stepping away, I like to think that you have the option to leave New Age spirituality and those people behind without giving up your sense of what is real to you. I like to think that that's possible. And I'd hope it's possible to skip that return to Christianity, that grasping for light, and to sit in the discomfort for a little bit of, I don't entirely know what's what anymore. Just to sit in that until you find an answer that's real to you. I like to think that that's possible for people. It took me a long time. But I like to think that it's possible, and probably faster than I did it, to realize that, yeah, maybe Christianity wasn't it. And maybe going and exploring was good, but maybe I also got duped there. Maybe it's not about oneness. These weird, buzzy experiences with ungrounded realizations of the next thing that's broken with me. Because it seems to be the thing that those beings focus on, by the way, is the next thing on your psychic to-do list for how to fix yourself to be more perfect. They like to give you more work, busy work, to rip apart your emotions and pretend that it's progress. But it never goes anywhere, not even once. I've never seen it go anywhere for anyone. It's the thing. I like to think that it's possible to see through all of that and just to sit in that discomfort for a bit and to get quiet and to seek light in our actual experience. To learn to trust our own inner compass, to refine our intuition, and to start orienting ourselves around that sense of rightness. And the first step probably is leaving. Probably is. Leaving something. That toxic relationship or the toxic friendship or that toxic mentorship or whatever it is, leaving at least that thing. The thing that's most wrong. Because at the end of the day, if we can't trust our own experience, our own sense of right and wrong, what are we even doing here? What is this? Now, I believe more than anything that internal sense of right and wrong is God, is light, and nothing else can ever replace it. And that's why I still have never found my way back to Christianity. I've still never found my way back to Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. Now all of my problems are gone again. I don't think that's a real solution. I can't. I've obviously explored it, but I've never found true solace there. It always feels like I'm going back to sleep. It feels like an escape hatch for hard things. But maybe that's just it, right? If I could sit down and have a candid conversation with myself or someone else who's teetering in New Age spirituality, maybe that would be it, is just listen to the hard truths that are already inside of you. The things that you already know. That relationship is over. It was never right. That mentor is terrible. It's the worst human being ever. Is just manipulating you into oblivion, that your healers aren't healing you, that the energy work's not working, that manifestation's not working, that there's something deeply wrong. I think that would be it. Step one, embrace the hard truths, because that's your truth. We can call it negative thoughts, but But sometimes things are actually bad. It's like sometimes people are actually abusing you or actually taking advantage of you. Sometimes things are actually toxic. And if we pretend that it's not, we're just gaslighting ourselves. Stockholm Syndrome. That's not spiritual progress. Embrace hard truths and get out. That's what I'd tell myself back then. Just stop. And you'll find something else because you're actually onto something. That's not being positive, it's just reality. You really are onto something. We live in a world where the only worldviews are a very old, childlike version of spirituality and a very sterile, borderline ignorant, like intellectually dishonest, secular worldview that's, oh, it's all physical. There's none of those experiences that everybody's having are real. We live in a world where those are the most common worldviews. You're onto something, obviously. But you won't find it in spirituality. You won't find it in conscious community. And conscious community will never change the world because these people are too busy doing drugs and trying to manage their polyamorous relationships to do much of anything else. It's sad. Truthfully, it's sad. But you're onto something. There really is something there. This world is more than physical. There is more to life than the traditional path. But if we're going to be the ones who figure that out, we have to at least be honest with ourselves. We can't lie to ourselves. There are enough people lying to us about what this world is that we have to at least be honest with ourselves to have any chance of making sense of what this place is. Of course, that's where it starts. I hope there's at least something in here that sparks some truth in you that you already know. It doesn't all have to be true for you. My experience is my experience, and your experience is your experience. And maybe you're not ready to leave yet. Maybe you don't want to blow everything up. Maybe that doesn't feel right to you, and that's fine. But I hope just talking candidly a little bit is a reminder that those thoughts that I think most spiritual people have on a fairly regular basis might actually be valid. There might actually be something to the doubts. Because for me, especially looking back in hindsight, it was a lot of nonsense. And I am unbelievably grateful to be done with that chapter of my life. And I have no regrets. I never long for that community. I never long for manifestation. I never long to be back in those states where I have to hype myself up every single day to make myself and my world perfect. I don't miss it at all. I wouldn't trade this journey out of New Age spirituality for anything. I would never go back. I just hope at some point that community can be honest with itself. And then maybe we can all make some progress. Well, we'll see if I can make a video out of this.
Wait, it already is a video.
Like and subscribe. It's like somber as shit. And then it just cuts to life. Don't forget to like and subscribe, friend. If you know someone in New Age spirituality, share this with them. From the coach to the wizard to the to the channel to the king. Good luck, guys.